Bantamweight bout here. Pedro Munhoz coming in at plus 190 against Chris Gutierrez, minus 190 there. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 197 for the over, plus 197 for the under. Pedro Munhoz coming off the no contest against Sean O'Malley, where he had he got his eye poked. And if you didn't think it was an eye poke, he had to provide the medical documents saying he had that scratched retina or cornea or whatever, something in his eye. He provided some form of proof. But he's coming in this one, I think, a little bit undervalued because he's been fighting at the top of the division for the longest time. I mean, since 2019 when he beat Cody Garbrandt and then fought Aljo, Frankie Edgar, Jimmy Rivera, Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, and then Sean O'Malley. So, I mean, he's fighting, all top 10 guys in the bantamweight division, at least at the time. And then Chris Gutierrez is coming in this one as a near 2-1 favorite. And his last win is against Frankie Edgar, who then retired. And then before that, Dana Bakari. And I know he's winning these fights. His only loss in the UFC is Jaime Barcelos in his debut. Other than that, he's won every fight. Did fight to a draw against Cody Durden. So he's winning, but his wins aren't as impressive that I think. Like, the competition just doesn't stack up against Pedro Munhoz's competition. So I think this is a bit of a step up. I don't like him at that big of a favorite. I think he's probably the better mixed martial artist at this point in their career because Pedro Munhoz is 37, 36? Yeah, 36. He's never been finished, though. And if this goes to decision, I got to say I want the underdog ticket because that's probably where I see this one going. 2 decision. Both guys are fairly durable. I don't think Pedro Munhoz puts him out, and I don't think Chris Gutierrez is going to be the first guy to put Pedro Munhoz out. He could because maybe that chin is time to crack. But I just think he's getting undervalued in this one. It kind of reminds me of the Rob Font and Adrian Yanez fight from last week. A guy rising up the ranks, kind of a big step up, and then a guy that's been, seasoned at the top of the division for a while, and maybe he, welcomes him to the top of the division with a loss. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I think this is another fight where everybody's going to be so biased towards what's happened recently with both fighters. Pedro Munhoz coming off of the eye poke, which everybody loves Sean O'Malley, so everybody was hardcore hating on Pedro Munhoz after that fight. And then you got Chris Gutierrez, who just knocked out Frankie Edgar, who could barely put a sentence together. I mean, he's so old, but not really. But I mean, that win doesn't age that well, because everybody knows it was Frankie's last fight. Frankie had never been knocked out in his career, and then he gets knocked out by Ortega, and the next thing you know, everybody's flatlining him. So, yeah, man, I think people are going to write off Pedro Munhoz here. I think Munhoz has the same game plan he had against O'Malley. You fight a longer striker like Chris Gutierrez and Sean O'Malley are, you go chew up the legs. And no matter what people say that Sean won that first round, I mean, Sean couldn't get off any offense because Pedro's game plan was to kick the legs and frustrate him to the point where, he couldn't throw any combinations or he couldn't throw the shots he wanted to. And Pedro's a seasoned enough vet and he's fought good enough guys that he's going to have a good game plan. His coaches are going to have him ready to fight whatever style is going to beat Chris Gutierrez. I think they probably have a good idea of what it is, and they're going to have him prepared. I just think that people are going to write off Munhoz here, and I think Munhoz could go out there and surprise a lot of people. Probably doesn't go knock him out, but, man, I will not – I'm going to call it right now. This is going to be a split decision fight, and like I said, when it goes to split decision, at least in my past and in the case, I think you want to be holding the dog ticket, like you said, and those leg kicks might add up against a guy who is kind of heavy on his front foot like Chris Gutierrez. So, yeah, man, I'm kind of leaning towards Pedro Munhoz in this one for the fact that you got to fade the public sometimes. And the public's going to be all over the guy who's coming off a knockout.
Yeah, and Chris Gutierrez fought to a split decision win against Felipe Colares less than a year and a half ago. And that Felipe Colares got finished by Chase Hooper the fight after that. So it's not a great look. But that's MMA math, and we all know that is 100% accurate. So